Uh, Recording in progress. Jacob, man. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Like, where does this journey take off from? Because, I mean, when you just kind of grow up, I can't imagine. Like, did you imagine yourself like being a personality, or is getting into that realm of like entertainment or et cetera, et
It,
cetera? Or-
it's weird because as a kid, I liked comedy a lot. I really liked analysis of comedy, breaking stuff down. And I remember I want to do comedy. Like I think that was the first thing as a kid where I was like, oh, I'm passionate about that. Cause like I don't think I understood at a young age like what an entertainer could be. It kind of like to me, if you want to be an entertainer, it existed in stand-up comedy and that was it. So I don't think I ever had like thoughts of being an actor or anything like that. It was just like I want to entertain. And I think I just whenever YouTube became a platform, I was young. I was like 12, and I started uploading on there casually. And like that didn't turn into anything. But fast forward it like 8 years later, when I was like 19, 20, that's when I started uploading and it actually went somewhere.
Hmm. What were you uploading when things started picking up? Was it I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with gaming in that
Oh, you're
realm,
fine.
but
You're fine.
was it gaming videos and stuff, or
Yeah,
like?
yeah. It started out as gaming videos. I was still probably I was pretty detached from gaming, honestly. It
Hmm,
was more so I just got like a new toy that could record video games in HD. So I
yeah,
really started making video game content because I wanted to test this equipment. Funny
yeah.
enough, I played games with my friends, but very casually. Like I wasn't as deep in it as I am now.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just started uploading because it seemed like a fun editing challenge. And I was like busy and like I was doing a lot of film classes in college at the time.
And did you study film or cinematography
I
or anything?
I
Or?
studied film and I switched my major to chemistry
Hmm,
because I like chemistry a lot. Those were like the two decisions I wanted to do. And then when it came to film, I was like, I want more creative control. So I switched to chemistry. And then I kept doing like YouTube on the side as like a little creative outlet. And then
hmm.
eventually that just took off, which was to my surprise. I never once tried for it to take off. It just did.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever finish that degree in chemistry
I
or?
told myself after it was like 1 year after I started committing to it where things started getting bigger and bigger. And I was like skipping class a lot to like edit more videos, to record more, whatever. And then it was kind of like at that point, I was like, juggling both is hard. I'm gonna take one semester off. I'm just gonna take one little semester off. We'll see if it's like a noticeable difference. And it changed exponentially. So I was like, I'll take another semester off, and then I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm good.
Hmm,
I'm
really?
set.
Well,
Yeah.
what points? You don't have to give me exact numbers or whatnot, but I'm curious at what points. Where's the threshold of where you can make a living off of? Say
Mhm.
like creating your own content on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not too familiar with that equation
Mhm.
per se. So where's that threshold? Like I can just do
I
this.
think at my age, because I was like 20 when I was really trying to make these decisions. I was young,
Yeah, yeah,
and I at my job I worked, I made about $1,500 to $2,000 a month.
yeah.
And I lived in Oklahoma. So that was more than enough to afford my cost of living. My rent was $400, including utilities.
Oh yeah,
So like,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
wow,
it's
crazy.
fine.
Yeah.
So I could have lived off $600 if I needed to, but I was making about 1,500, 2,000 at my job. And then I started making around 1,500, 2,000 on YouTube while juggling both of them. And it was kind of like, first I have to quit my job to see if I can make that get bigger. And I was like, same thing with school. I was like, I'm going to quit my job for like 6 months
Hmm.
because I was on really good terms with them. I could come back if I needed to. And I was like, let me just see if I can make more from this. And I think it was like eventually when I got to making like 6 digits from YouTube, that's about when I was like, I'm going to quit school for a little bit and
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Oh, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
that's, did you? Are you originally from Oklahoma or?
Yeah. I'm from Oklahoma. I live in Los Angeles now as the cycle goes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like I couldn't imagine staying well, I'm from Boston in the East Coast, and I
Hmm.
found myself now in like the New York City region, and So I can imagine, like, I've never been out to Oklahoma that part of the country. So I just never, I'm like, what's out there? So I guess
Not a
my next
lot.
question is, what's
Yeah.
out there? Um,
Not a lot.
yeah. Well, then
Yeah,
as
it's
such,
food. The South has good food, though. I will vouch for that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I miss most from home.
Hmm. What was your favorite dish, I guess, or the staple
I
dish there at home?
it it wasn't like a certain. I think like the only kind of food that I miss is like good Tex-Mex.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like you have a lot of authentic Mexican food out here, but it's just like something perfectly bad about Tex-Mex that I miss.
Interesting. But then, of course, when um, I'm kind of wrapping back to your journey of like, of course, when you made those numbers, those large numbers off YouTube, you went to
Yeah.
LA. Was that the process?
No, I didn't. I didn't move to LA for a good while. I really held my ground because I was like, I'm making a lot of money. I am staying in a place where that money is worth more,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So I feel like I moved to LA later than most do in their careers.
Hmm.
I just had like a good life. I had friends, I had family, I had a relationship in Oklahoma. So it's just like, what? It's so hard to leave everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, eventually I just made the move, and about like roughly like a year and a half, 2 years ago was when I moved out here.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah.
And now, how have you really have you enjoyed LA? Or I am. Some
I
people
love it.
do, and some people like, no, I stay away from LA
Yeah,
as much as
I don't
possible. But
think I'm like gonna stay here forever, like my whole life. I don't think it's one of those. But for now, I'm having a lot of fun,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
that's what LA is about.
Oh yeah, especially in 20s and mid 20s. It's that's the time to be in LA or New York, man. Like I
Yeah,
love New York City too,
yeah.
actually I love that just the grittiness of New York City compared to the LA. I love LA
I
too,
love New
but
York City.
yeah, yeah. Um, so uh, so I guess to how I'm sorry, it may just be sometimes I just get lost in my own thoughts, but like how did you when did so when the YouTube series picked up, you were strictly really into gaming, I guess, and like
Yeah. I kind of just did gaming. I did music my whole life growing up, but then like I think I just got so consumed with numbers and making more and more and more and more, where I
mm,
kind of put that on the shelf for a while. Then I think it was like roughly the start of 2019 when I really started like I'm committing. I need a hobby. I'm getting back into music,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
kind of has come a lot further than I expected, I guess.
nice. Well, yeah,
And
I know you're releasing the new album soon.
yeah,
Uh, and your project name or your
yeah,
performer name is Ace of Hearts, and the new
yes,
album
sir.
is I'm
Frozen in
sorry,
time.
yes, Frozen in Time.
Don't worry, I got it all up here. You're
Yeah,
good.
no, yeah. Well, generally, I just like love to just kind of free flow and just if any recent project an artist has going, they want to plug that, just kind of, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that. I'm fascinated with the bigger picture. Like I'm fascinated, like it's so crazy to imagine you can make a career just out of like creating YouTube content, and
yeah,
in this digital world that we're immersed in. But we can talk about that a bit later. But so you're always into music?
yeah. I've been playing piano since I was like 6 years old, guitar
Mm,
when I was 10, drums when I was 8, and like I picked up bass somewhere along the way. But it's just like a lot of this music has existed in my life in the background the whole time. And
mm,
I loved music growing up, but I never felt like I mean, I didn't really grow up in an artsy district or anything like that. So I never felt like you can't make it an art. The
yeah,
same way I like pivoted from film to chemistry. I was like, that's the only way to do something. And now it's like it's so potent, it's so public, it's everywhere. And art is everywhere. And I want to make more of it. Like this album is coming out at the time of recording this, it comes out like tomorrow or tonight.
yeah.
And
That would
I
be December 10th. But
Yeah.
this conversation may be out. We release every 2 weeks, so it could be
Yeah,
a
I know how these
couple
things
weeks.
go.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's why I always have to specify now.
yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, we're releasing that album and we're already like hitting the ground running on album 2. You know, like
Yeah.
we're it's mostly written and next month we're like coming to finish it. So
Oh wow, that's crazy.
yeah,
Do you
it's
have
just
like a specific team of people you really work with, or friends, or just
um
help you
not
produce all this?
for
Or
me. For me, all the writing is typically just me.
Hmm.
And then I will kind of bring a pretty not polished, but more polished than a demo needs to be. I'll bring that demo to like a couple friends or like our manager or something and just kind of like play it and listen to it and get everyone's notes. And I'm usually showing musicians who are much more talented, much more knowledgeable than I am. So it's really helpful to get their input. And then they usually say, what if you had this doing? You know how it goes.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just, it expands. And that's usually how the final product starts to develop.
Can you talk about like your inspiration for this upcoming album?
Mhm.
Lyrically,
Yeah, I think
what was going on in your life, and what really inspired to produce an album, your first album, I guess.
yeah. Well, I just wanted to, you know, it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
as soon as I started music, I just wanted to. And it's
yeah,
that simple. When it comes to like lyrics, it's one of those things I just write what I felt and whenever that happened. And then like I have to go back and kind of be like, oh, this was probably pulled from this. Like I think a lot of my lyrical content is kind of inspired by like it's not a conscious thing. It's not like I was like, oh my God, my lights.
yeah.
I keep wanting to be like, oh, retroactively, this kind of sounds like Strokes. This kind of sounds like Death Cab. This kind of like it's I feel or Mika. Like I feel like I have these inspirations that are so noticeable in retrospect, but in the moment, I'm just kind of it's just flowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
get
as
that.
for this, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
For
It was just I get that comment.
yeah, for this album, I think I was really inspired by a lot of not sound wise, but structure wise of like Green Day and how they do American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown, how it's just like a narrative.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do something like that. So all the songs are structured in order. It creates a story. We're putting out like a 45-minute visual album just over the music
Oh,
that
cool.
just rides the narrative of that entire thing.
Yeah,
Because that's one, I just want to do that because it's cool. It's a
yeah,
cool piece of art. And two, with Alpharad and my whole YouTube base, it's rooted in a visual medium. So if I want more people to listen to Ace of Hearts, how do I pull those visual listeners
Hmm.
and bring them to a more audio centric base? And I thought like the visual album was the perfect middle ground of getting people to give it a chance.
Yeah. Well, that's hand in hand. Yeah, and well, no matter, yeah, it seems like you're really into like narrative and storytelling, even with gaming, that it's all visual narrative, with
Yeah.
the complexities of the task and challenges at hand, but then you can apply that to music as well. And then also like you're interested in chemistry, you piece into components together of
Yeah.
chemical molecules and stuff, so you kind of I see the pattern of interest, and they all kind of apply, even if somebody else may say, "Oh, chemistry
Yeah.
and music and YouTube creation and
At
just
the end of the
film,
day, I really
etc."
just want to make cool art.
Yeah, no,
That's it. In
exactly.
every medium I can.
Yeah, yeah. So, actually, I had a question then regarding your album. Did you play all the instruments, or instrumental
No.
wise, or did you have like background
It was a
band or
mix
something?
and mash.
Mm.
I did all the vocals,
Yeah.
the outside of the ones, the backing ones that I I would play guitar and piano on some of the tracks. I I would write a lot of it in its like simplest form and then kind of give it to I would find more talented studio musicians, be like, this is kind of what I'm going for. You
Mm.
get it? And then they were kind of riff on that idea. At their own touch. Sometimes I'd pull it back if they were like drifting too much. But we used like the same drummer throughout the whole album. We used I think like two different basses throughout the album. And then like we had some songs where we pull in like a full string quartet.
Mhm.
Obviously, I didn't play all those parts.
Yeah.
And it's just Yeah, so some songs just got more and more intense, and those were the ones that I didn't play on, but they were fun to make.
Did you have perform any live sets from this album, or
So
did you strictly just produce the album and release them?
just produced, because our first single came out in like March, April of 2020.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
we weren't really given a chance to perform live. I
yeah,
think minus the pandemic, the answer would be yes. But now also I threw a move in there, so I'm still having to meet new people out here. But we want to go on tour, we want to play shows, and that probably happens sometime next year.
yeah.
But first I have to find people who can take these parts and now play them live, because that's
true.
different.
Yeah,
And we also had such talented studio musicians, so it's now like I don't want to compromise that quality. Now I have to find really good live musicians. They were too good in the studio, and now it's harder for me.
yeah. That's hard, because if they specialize more into the studio recording,
Yeah.
and then it's like, yeah, how do you take, how do you match that sound, but on on a live performance?
The studio musicians are just busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I guess what's your next venture? Like, obviously, you want to go on tour, and actually, you said you had something, the second album almost completed. Is that correct, or?
Written wise, yes.
Oh,
like
okay.
not a single thing has been recorded, tracked, or anything. I would say it's still very early.
Yeah.
But I think it's further along than people would expect, just given that it's pretty written.
What and then so you'd imagine next year going on tour, doing the venues, and getting out there to a live audience, even though things are so variable now, and post-COVID age. It's like, I've talked to a lot of musicians too that find it hard to book, like even like nationally. They have to keep it hyper local, and just do local venues, because you never know now with the Omicron, it's like all these variants. So it's hard to what I've been discovering. It's very hard to kind of plan out next year too, But
I mean, we work with a touring company who's very hopeful and optimistic, and they're kind of handling all that. And if it goes down under, then we'll figure it out when we get there. But I want to plan for it. I want to be optimistic.
Of course, yeah. Now, how do you do you still continue your YouTube stuff, and also juggle music and other stuff too?
I've ventured on a lot of projects over my time, but I kind of see it as like for like Alpharad, how it started. It was just me. It was just me when it started, and then we've hired more and more people, and now we have like multiple salaried people on that company, and having because it's just, when you hire people, you're buying time. You're taking time away from what you're doing and giving it to someone else. You're just buying more time, is how I view it.
Yeah.
And I've bought all that time for Alpharad, so I need less of my personal time invested in it, which is great, because everything looks great. Everything is flowing like a well-oiled machine. And then it gives me enough time to really build Ace of Hearts from the ground up. And now, as Ace of Hearts is taking on a life of its own, give it a little more time, and I'll be able to hire more people who can manage all the nitty-gritty that I'm doing now. And it's just like, I'll just keep doing that until I'm out of time.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Now, no, actually, it's kind of like you approach everything kind of like a business, right? It seems like, this identity, you started off as, say, Alpharad, kicked off unexpectedly and grew, and then you built it kind of like that identity into an actual business, and then now you're trying to build Ace of Hearts to that level as well, I assume. Yeah. And do you find it, I guess, difficult to kind of balance those two identities or personalities or personas?
I think it'd be fun for me to say, no, I've got it all figured out, but that would be lying. It's incredibly difficult at times, because like when you have two deadlines for two different brands with two different mediums that are both you at the end of the day, what do you prioritize? And the answer is, it really just depends on the day. Like what feels more urgent at the time. And how I always factor it is like, it helps hiring people, because I don't want to disappoint anyone. So having like more people invested in it and more people depending on me is just like, all right, I have to it's like the trolley experiment. You're like, how can I disappoint the least amount of people right now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to ask if you had help or like a team of people on each side, kind of helping do the task that would take you away and stress you out. You know, the nitty gritty, like you said, I
Yeah.
think nitty gritty, the logistical task of operating a business. And now you have two. I'm
Yeah,
sure I feel like you're going to have another one soon too.
probably, hopefully at this rate.
Yeah, yeah. What would be the ultimate goal, I guess, regarding like your musical stuff? Like,
Um, I honestly, I would love to like I love YouTube, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun, but I would love to one day get to a point where like my main focus can be music just cuz I think that's like YouTube is fun, but like I don't have the passion for it like I do with music. And it
yeah,
could just be because it's newer, but either way, it feels so much more of myself because YouTube is hidden behind an inconsistent persona.
yeah,
Whereas like music is like no matter what people interpret out of the song, like the creation of it is me.
yeah.
Like, and
Well,
it's
yeah,
I made it from scratch, and that's
you're
like with
tapping
these
into your
videos,
deeper
it's not.
inner self. You're tapping
Yeah,
into yourself in your spirit, soul, and
mhm,
you creating music. Whereas,
yeah,
you know, with YouTube and the videos, you're taking already established worlds and putting your unique spin on it, but it's not your tapping deep
mhm,
into your feelings per se, you know,
yeah,
in your expression. And well, that's why I love art, though. You know, it's I mean, arts in all forms and formats. It just taps into the subconscious, and uh, as the artist, and they can mold whatever medium they wish into expressing how they view the world. You know,
mhm,
and if it's music, it's music. If it's painting, it's painting, et cetera, et cetera. Or like myself, I don't like creating or calling anybody, you know, just a musician. I feel like these days you can
no one
cross.
does one thing anymore.
No, exactly, and it's like, yeah, I've spoken to a lot of traditionalists and more conservative artists, and you know, they're a bit older, of course, so they stick with just like painting and or you have to be just a photographer. I'm like, no, I think now you have to have like all these
Plus,
different
with the
tentacles.
internet, so much information is out there. So
Yeah,
many people I work with now are like, "Oh, I learned how to do this over quarantine from the internet." Like, there's so many people who are making careers out of skills that they picked up over the last 18 months from nothing, and that's insane.
that is true. That thinking about it and like, wow, yeah. I have lots of developer friends too, and they're, you know,
Yeah,
they love code. I'm like, me, I understand the higher level concept of code, but getting down to that, just like programming, I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not my mind.
yeah,
You know, as myself, I evolved from, you know, I was in UX in Boston and that UX design and tech and finance and stuff, and then came to New York and got into photography and started documenting a lot of musicians, actors, etc. And then I'm doing that. I'm also painting up here. Have the conversation series kind of picking up. Obviously, not as I'm still like, oh, YouTube. I don't get you algorithm. The
yeah.
equation. I'm like, I just like putting it up and that's it. If people view it, it view it. I like, I don't, I want to have my own time of like create, like actually going out and creating photographs and
Yeah.
documenting, have my own, going out in the field, I guess one would say, comparatively to thinking about the marketing side or like
Mhm.
the branding side on YouTube. But you know, this series, it's almost up to 500,000. So that's not bad, I guess,
That's
you know?
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but not compared to your what I was just looking at your YouTube, but it's like crazy. I'm just like, wow, like it's a billion, it's over a bill. You know, that's crazy. It just,
Thank
but I
you.
mean, you know, ah, um, but I mean, that's crazy. I just, but I, sorry, dude, I
Oh, you're fine.
lost my train of thought by going on your channel. And just the audio went, and I'm like, oh, kind of distracted me a bit. But I just do you get any real world feedback from it? Like say Alpharad, do people actually write to you and give that feedback to
People
you?
do.
Hmm.
They'll leave comments, they'll send tweets, they'll send I guess emails or something. Like there is information out there. It's really hard because you could talk to a Hollywood director online and they have the same quality or quantity, like the amount of feedback a 6-year-old with an internet connection has. So it's very difficult to like pick and choose the criticism you want to apply.
Hmm.
But I think like, yeah, it's out there. But I think like at this point, I've kind of done it long enough to where I understand that there's an audience out there. I've collected a large enough one to
Yeah.
where now I just kind of put out what I like, what I want to do, and people will either stick with it or they won't.
Yeah.
Because I think that's kind of the self-actualization of a content creator is to just be like, I have done a lot of work in cultivating this audience, and now I get to just throw whatever I want at the wall and see what sticks. It might go better, it might go worse, but at this point, you're still paying rent. You're still doing fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's oh, and that's the beauty of the web now. It's like if you want to test idea or you want to create something, you just create it, put it out.
Yeah.
If you get feedback, positive feedback, then continue doing so. If not, you may just switch to something else. But I guess we're not so limited anymore where we can do so many things as individuals and people who want to create in different forms and express themselves. And the internet provides that, and if you get that negative feedback, it's like, okay, maybe adapt or switch, or if you want to continue that. But generally, in my point of view too, it's like I like to just create for myself instead of creating for this fictitious audience you'll never see, like all of them. So you just have to initially create for yourself, and then if it picks up, it picks up. But were you into like games as a child as well? Like I know you were into music, but were you kind of into gaming too, like physical, like board games or computer games at the time too?
Yeah, I played a lot of like computer video games, stuff like that as a kid. I think it was very casually though. It's like I would play Pokemon when it comes out. I would play Smash Bros at a friend's house.
Yeah.
But like I never really got too deep into it until I made like one Smash Bros video at age 19 and it just took off. So then I was like, okay, I guess I'll lean more into this. And I started learning more about the culture. And it just like kind of grabbed me by the wrists. And I just jumped into the abyss of whatever that gaming world is. So that's kind of, it felt like such an involuntary thing almost. It's like once I started making more, I just learned everything around it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, if you're really interested in or if something picks up, like dive deeper into it, Interesting. I that might be the last of my questions on gaming, or probably not, but I kind of want to bounce back to your current project and interest in the music. And that's what I've been focusing on the last years as musicians and artists and stuff. And so actually, did I notice on Twitter too? Were you in did you already produce a music video as well? Is that?
Yeah, we made the whole visual album over it. So like, 10
that's the
music videos
visual
back to
album.
back.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, visual album. Yeah. See, I'm on and off the web, and I haven't posted on Twitter since 2016. So then I'm awful.
Yeah.
Like, so forgive me if I'm just like, oh, it looks like a music video,
You're
but
fine.
I missed the metadata, and I'm the worst techie, and I was in tech, and I'm just like, I don't know. But sorry if I've skipped over anything regarding that, because I just kind of, sometimes I just get, I miss a bit of metadata, but and that's out now. Or is that in sync with the album release? The visual album and the just audio album are coming out at the same time tomorrow, or a few hours
tonight, technically.
Standard. Yeah. Wow. I guess what's your hopes and I guess the vision for this album, or what would you like the feedback to be? Or
Um, I'm not too concerned with
yeah,
the feedback. I made something I wanted to. I think I made a cool piece of art, and I think it'll resonate with people, or it won't.
yeah,
And that's I mean, that's honestly how I produce art, and I'm very happy and comfortable with that. It's like I made exactly what I set out to do, what I wanted to do, what I needed to do, and for the people who want or need to hear that, they'll find it.
yeah, yeah. That's a great ethos, though. It's like just create uh through the creation process and just setting out what you wanted to create. It's that's rewarding within itself. And if you do get that positive feedback, that's just extra.
Yeah.
But you didn't initially create for that, you created because you
Yeah. I
wanted it to
mean,
do
I
it.
think I'm already fulfilled financially from like the whole YouTube thing.
Yeah,
So exploring this whole musical thing, it's just like I'm like I've made money off of it. And that's kind of like a whoa, didn't expect that. So I'm fine with it. I kind of took all the money I made from music and just put it back into it because like that whole shooting 10 music videos is not a cheap ordeal.
yeah, yeah. um are you do you have a label as of yet, or are you
Mm.
independent?
It's all self-funded right now. We do have
Yeah,
a management group
yeah,
because that's kind of like the only thing we would need a label for anyways, that and
that's
distribution.
yeah, yeah, that's true. But do you
Yeah.
imagine just strictly releasing it digitally, or or would you actually make hard copies or like physical
Oh,
copies
well,
too?
we are making hard copies. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Like we have the management group for distribution purposes.
oh, true, true. You're right. You're right. Um, cool, cool, man. Sorry, I'm just. I guess then. I may call it a wrap because my brain is just like hitting a wall. Sorry,
No,
dude.
it's okay. I think we
I
touched on everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I like to go deep too, but I'm really just kind of fried. So actually tonight, but probably in a few weeks, December 10th, the new album is of Ace of Hearts, Frozen in Time, is out physically in this time frame in a few hours, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard, and in the West Coast out tomorrow. And yeah, what else should we kind of look out for on your end?
Uh,
Musically,
I mean,
gaming
Alpharad
wise?
uploads pretty regularly. Alpharad's
Mm.
kind of stepping away from gaming stuff. A lot of
Oh,
it's kind of like a mix of gaming and like some live action stuff. So it's kind of a mishmash right now. Who
yeah,
knows where the long-term direction is? So that I mean, there's a new video like every like week or two on that. So like that'll always be having some new content. For
yeah,
Ace of
yeah,
Hearts, just put out a full album, put out a full visual album, and that's that. And as far as when the next release for Ace of Hearts goes, I don't know. But
yeah,
we're just gonna focus on this one for right now.
yeah, yeah. Um, and also, like when you figure out the logistics, see live performances as well, or
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, I wish I had
yeah,
more details to share on that,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
sometime next year for sure. Maybe, probably.
Hmm. Okay, sir. Well, thank you for your time, and
Oh, of course.
hopefully it was a bit of an engaging conversation, if somewhat lacking information on some things. But
Oh, like what?
oh, I don't know. I feel like I was just not too knowledgeable, and the more of the web content and stuff like that. But
I think that's why you're asking the questions, though.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. Well, and that's the premise of the series too. It's like I like to just kind of jump in onto this rectangle of like and kind of try to spin off a conversation with somebody I don't know, and that's the hardest thing
Yeah.
to do.
Mhm.
And but I guess that's why I call it uncontaminated sounds. But I am looking forward to diving into not only the Sonic album, but also the visual album, which I'm actually really intrigued about. Oh, and a question
Yeah.
on that though: who created the visuals in sync with the song? Did you have external studio help you, or was that yourself as well?
We pretty much hired everyone. It was nearly self-produced. We had a few other people step in and do like a lot of the admin stuff, but it was an 8-day film shoot.
Wow.
And it spread out over late October to mid-November. And
wow,
we had a narrative, we had a story in mind. We hired the whole crew we needed. Like 80% of it was filmed in Los Angeles, 20% was in San Francisco. So it was a fun through and through.
And now, actually, one more important question: where can we locate the visual album as well? On your site?
The visual album, as of right now, it's only on YouTube. We might end up putting it on, like, I know you can sell stuff on like iTunes. We'll probably end up putting it on there somehow one day.
Yeah.
But as of right now, it's just on YouTube.
Yeah. Cool. Definitely. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow morning or whatever. If I stay up, I'll dive into it tonight at midnight. But once again, thank you for your time, sir.
All right. Of course. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Have a good day, Robert.
You as well.
Bye.